Welcome back to a second look. We're talking about 2002, About Schmidt by the great Alexander Payne.
Great Alexander Payne. One of the best modern directors.
He's actually one of my favorites, and I have to say this movie is up there on my list of Alexander Payne films.
Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of people have seen this compared to movies like Sideways, Election. Even The Holdovers, I think, got a little bit more attention.
Yeah, it's kind of like the overlooked film in between Election and Sideways.
Yeah.
Sideways is my favorite Alexander Payne film.
And if they want to drink Merlot, we're drinking Merlot.
No, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
It's one of my favorite films of all time.
I always said Election is my favorite.
I spoke with Eliza Ramirez, a freshman, who said she feels alienated from her own homeroom.
Eat me! Eat me raw!
I mean, it's up there too.
I'm getting older, folks, and I would say that...
You got gray in your beer.
And maybe that gives it away right there. This ages well for me.
Maybe age has something to do with this film too.
I mean, what is it about the movie?
It's about what is the purpose of life.
Really, the end of your...
Really the end of your life.
The end of your life. Your children have aged. They're grown. They have a life of their own. You're ending your job, looking back at your life. You know, you're sort of analyzing that. Like,
yeah. What good have you been in this world? And
I think Alexander Payne likes to make fun of that.
Yes, he puts a sort of a skewered mirror on that.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it interesting. So you can actually examine that sort of question.
Yeah.
In a humorous light.
Yeah, and I think one of the great things, and maybe this is why Alexander Payne likes the Midwest settings.
Well, he's from Nebraska.
He's from Nebraska.
He's from Omaha.
I love the comedy of this sort of, let's face it, the Schmidt family, they're dull.
Why is it that every little thing she does irritates me? Like the way she gets the keys out of her purse long before we reach the car, and how she throws our money away on her ridiculous little collections.
But they're the typical American family, at least on the surface. And it's all about surfaces.
Are they the typical American family?
Yeah, I think so.
Or are they just a little more dull?
They are the typical American family that they've presented to the rest of the world. Like, I think that's the whole thing that he's sort of driven for his entire life, is presenting this facade without really ever going deeper into anything more than that.
None of these superficialities mean a goddamn thing. What really means something, Warren, is the knowledge that you devoted your life to something meaningful.
He reminds me a lot of my grandfather. He was really into Rotary. He was all about presenting heirs. Like, he was a very prominent Republican man and wanted to appear that way. But it wasn't until he died that the rest of the family realized that he had no business acumen. He was a doctor. You know, he was a good doctor. He was a successful family practitioner. But for some reason, it was always very important for him to be this Republican businessman, even though he wasn't that at all.
Do we assume that this family is Republican?
I think so, yes.
I was gonna be one of those guys you read about. But somehow, it just didn't work out that way.
But you're not berating them or judging them in that aspect.
So
you're just examining them, with the lens of satire.
She has insisted that I sit when I urinate. My promise to lift the seat and wipe the rim and put the seat back down wasn't good enough for her. No.
Jack Nicholson. He's kind of a larger-than-life actor. He's known for larger-than-life characters like...
Wendy, I'm home.
What's great about Nicholson, and if you actually watch throughout his career, he's great at being over the top, but also being subtle.
Where are you from, Mulehouse?
Hey, man. Mulhall. Mulhall. Understand?
Yeah. Where are you from, Mulhall?
So when he did this, I think at least part of the comedy for me is the fact that this larger-than-life actor is playing this such...
Mundane,
this sort of banal...
He's very dull.
This boring existence. And
He spent his life just like skating the surface.
Yeah. One scene that always stands out for me, because again, it's Jack Nicholson, is he's at the Dairy Queen.
I'll have a blizzard with vanilla ice cream.
What would you like in it?
I'll have some Reese's Pieces and some cookie dough.
What size?
Medium.
Medium?
And it's freaking Jack Nicholson. And so I laugh, I chuckle the whole movie because of that.
So you're saying it's like kind of a meta.
In a way, yes.
For you.
But at the same time, it is a great performance.
I think it's like one of my favorite performances by him.
Don't dilly-dally.
June Squibb.
She doesn't have a large role in this, but she's very memorable as Warren's wife.
And we get to know her very well in Nebraska, by the way.
She shines in that film.
She really does. In some ways, she carries that film.
There's Woody's mother, Sarah. She hated me. She wanted to marry someone who milked the cows. I said, I ain't fiddling with no cow titties. I'm a city girl.
A great introduction to that character, by the way, is when he's laying in bed early in the film and he just kind of says,
Helen and I have been married 42 years. Lately, every night, I find myself asking the same question. Who is this old woman who lives in my house?
yeah, it's his wife of many years laying next to him in the bed.
Well, should we just get into like the film at this point? Because that's part of the narration.
Yeah, let's dive into it.
Dear Ndugu.
The framework of this film is Warren decides to like sponsor this kid and writes back to him, writing to Ndugu about his life.
Ndugu.
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 Dear Ndugu.
Dear Ndugu.
Dear Ndugu.
But in that framework, we pretty much learn right away that he's retiring. He's at the end of his career.
Yeah.
That is sort of the...
But he's describing the mundanity of his life to
Ndugu.
Alexander Payne just takes you through the banality of this guy's life.
He's oblivious to the mundanity of it.
And the comedy to me is that we all want to think our life has a lot of value.
Is better than what we experience.
In that our impact is more than it is.
Well, he writes to
Ndugu
what his initial aspirations were.
His relationship of writing to the kid is pretty minimal to the rest of the story.
It weaves you into his life.
It weaves you into that little bit of him talking to him.
Yeah.
But it's not the main story of the movie. So they start out his retirement party.
In that scene, there's like pictures of cows and heifers all over the walls. Yeah. And like Alexander Payne keeps cutting to like close-ups of them.
Yeah.
And then he cuts back to like a close-up of Nicholson. Cattle are just like, grist for the mill. And he's just the same.
But why would they show those images?
Well, because the Midwest is all about farm and it's the heartland.
And then showing Nicholson.
Warren is just the same as a cow being, bred to slaughter.
Maybe.
His life is just as meaningless
I never
as
thought
cows.
of that. I never thought of that before.
I never thought of it until I just watched it again recently.
And I love a little bit later in the intro where he visits the office because he's freaking bored.
Yeah.
And he wants to contribute again.
And I wanted to make sure that you didn't have any more questions about those preteen mortality risk models that I was working on. I know they seem pretty straightforward at first, but...
No, I think I've got a pretty good handle on things. You did a super job of handing everything over. Just super. Smooth sailing all the way.
The new guy, by the way, just a side note, Star Trek connection, played the temporal agent in Star Trek Enterprise, for anyone who cares.
No one cares. He's trying to be polite, but he's basically like...
Can you just leave?
Can you just...
But Nicholson is also not getting the hint that nobody wants his input anymore. Like, he still thinks he has value to this company, even though they've completely washed their hands of him at this point.
So he eventually leaves the office, and when he leaves, he notices the boxes that he thought would be important, files that he worked on. These might be helpful for my new replacement.
It's basically his life's work.
And he just sees them by the trash cans and
on the skiff.
It's awesome.
It's how everything you've done in your entire life is basically meaningless.
And it's such a punch in the stomach for anybody that would experience that. And at the same time, it makes you think, right? Like, am I that important? Like,
Yeah.
I want to think I'm important in my 20, 30, 40 years in a career.
Well, it sets up the existential journey that he's going to have throughout the rest of the film.
Do I have value? Do I still have value?
What is my purpose in life? Is there purpose in life?
Have I had value?
Where to, mister?
She's bought an RV,
Like you need a ride.
a really like top of the line RV for them. And they're just going to like cruise around the country, the two of them.
A whole new chapter.
A whole new chapter.
I thought it'd be fun to have breakfast in here today. You know, see what it'll be like.
Oh. Fine.
He's just repressed. He's a repressed man.
Is he looking for something more, some more adventure in his life at this point, given
I
that
don't
he's in
think
this
so.
next chapter?
I think he's been repressed for so long that he doesn't know what he wants anymore.
Her obsession with trying new restaurants.
Seafood buffet. Let's go there Sunday.
She's the organizer.
She's kind of in charge.
Yeah.
Because he's so reserved.
And he was focused maybe on his job. That was his thing.
That was his thing.
And her thing was everything else.
Everything else.
Right.
And she saw what the reality of things are.
Yeah.
You find out eventually.
You should make an effort. I mean, he's going to be your son-in-law and you hardly know him.
I know him well enough.
I wish you'd try to be more positive. She's lucky to have him.
Yeah.
They're retired. They have their.
They're going to see the world.
They have their retirement money, and
Yeah.
here we go.
Helen? Helen?
He comes back from the Dairy Queen.
And June Squibb is dead.
She's dead. It's one of the greatest like reveals. Actually,
Yeah.
she's just there. There's nothing dramatic about it.
But at the same time, I did not expect it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like he comes back and she's just collapsed on the floor, and the vacuum is still going.
And what this introduces is several things. One is it's sad.
It's very sad. That's what's great about this scene is like he's experiencing like a whole like range of emotions that I don't think he's experienced in his life.
Yeah.
Maybe at all.
Right.
That you don't know.
Yeah.
I think this is like one of the key scenes in this film, actually.
Yeah.
The way that Nicholson acts this is like brilliant.
Yeah. It introduces us to more characters. So we're suddenly meeting his daughter,
Jeannie.
Jeannie. We meet her lame husband.
Her fiance.
I should say fiance. Yeah. Because they're about to get married.
Randall.
She was a very special lady. I, for one, am really gonna miss her. I miss her already. I know we all do.
The whole dynamic of Jeannie and Randall.
They love each other.
They do. And we learn more about them.
But we see them initially through his eyes.
It's an investment opportunity. It's really exciting. And I want to get you in on the ground floor with me.
Oh.
And it's not a pyramid scheme. A lot of people think it's a pyramid scheme, but it's not. It's almost guaranteed you can double your money, maybe even triple it in the first year alone. The thing is, Warren, I'm not going to be selling waterbeds forever.
One of the great parts of this movie is how much he lifts his daughter up.
Because he's been so detached from their family life for so
His
long.
princess is his daughter. Yeah. But it's also, my daughter's successful. She's doing things. She's on her own. She's really making something of her life.
He has no idea who she is as a person.
Really none.
I really don't know what you're talking about. I don't think Mom would want us to change it at all.
All right. Okay, have it your way. You know best, you and your mother.
There's a disconnect with what he thinks.
And what the reality is.
Yeah.
Dear Ndugu.
They go back to Colorado.
He's really depressed. He actually realizes how much he misses Helen.
This house is under new management.
The house is not in good shape during this time. Because we realize, to your point,
she kept order.
So suddenly
it's a mess.
It's a complete frickin' mess.
And miss a meal or two, but I guess that's hardly worth mentioning to someone in your situation.
He's also going through her clothes. He's putting like her face cream.
He's losing it. He's kind of losing it a bit.
Yeah.
And he's like going through like old memorabilia. Yeah. And he's starting to look through some letters.
Letters.
And what happens there?
He finds out that one of his work buddies.
His best friend.
Yeah. If he even has any best friends, because he's such a detached individual, had an affair with Helen.
She kept these? I can't believe she kept these. Ow! Stop! Stop! Stop kidding me! Let's talk about this. You were my friend. It was all a big mistake. I mean, you went up to Frisco and things started up and we just got out of hand, that's all. I'm sorry!
He basically describes how absent he was from her life.
Yeah.
At that point.
And that gets him to maybe reflect. Just overall.
That starts his like existential journey.
So much has happened in my life that I can't seem to remember. Whole sections of my life that are just gone.
But at the same time, there's a purpose to the journey.
He's figuring out the purpose of his life.
More than that, though.
The surface point is he's going to his daughter's wedding in Denver. And he's going there early, long before he was invited.
You know, the thing is that Roberta and I and Jill, we've pretty much got everything under control. No, use the bubble wrap on that one. It's too big. It's such a nice offer, but let's stick to the plan, okay? And you get here a day or two before the wedding, like we said.
I assume you won't object to me sending any more of those checks.
Jesus, Dad, I do not have time for this, okay? You call me when you get home.
When he calls her, he thinks his job is more elevated than it is. And she's just sort of like...
She's like a UPS schedule.
Hey, don't forget to put more bubble wrap in that.
So you might say I've been trying to clear a few cobwebs from my memory.
There's two things about his life at that age that are supposed to like equal freedom. One is definitely retirement.
Yeah.
And his wife dies right after that. So he's free on 2 counts.
Right. I didn't think about that.
I thought it would be enlightening to visit the house where I was born 67 years ago next April. I've often wondered what our old house would be like today. Funny, I never forgot the address. 12 Locust Avenue. Yes, sir. 12 Locust Avenue.
It's a really bland building.
Completely bland. So when you go visit your old home when you were a kid, right? You imagine like maybe driving by the house, maybe even get to go into the house and see it. Maybe you're talking to the people that live there now. Well, in this case...
I used to live here. Here in the store?
Yep. My childhood home's right on this spot.
And Warren wants to talk about how this used to be his house. And the kid could not fucking care less.
Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
You're not gonna believe this. We used to have a tire swing right out front here.
Sums up the movie, sums up his life.
Just like how his life's work was thrown into the trash.
The boxes were by the trash.
His childhood home is now like something completely different.
In a blink of the eye, he's alone.
The solitude and the pointlessness of life.
And looking back at your past and also seeing maybe that is relevant.
Meaning. Yeah.
How much meaning does that have? His old house is now an auto shop.
Has no meaning.
Once I am dead and everyone who knew me dies too, it will be as though I never even existed. What difference has my life made to anyone? None that I can think of. None at all.
Again, sad existential journey, but also some great comedy.
Yes.
Some great
Well, you have to have the comedy to otherwise this would be a miserable film to watch.
Totally.
The comedy makes it watchable and relatable. I think that's the ultimate meaning of this film. Life is pointless, but there's humor.
It's
and love
not,
along the way.
But it's not something he's learning.
Ahoy there.
Yes?
I said ahoy.
Well, ahoy yourself.
John Rusk, Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
The gem this movie is to me is the characters he kind of
meets along the way.
Yeah. So he parks his RV where I don't even know where he is. He's halfway to Colorado. Who cares? He's wherever he is. And he runs into this couple, also an RV couple, and
John and Vicky.
And I know who John is. John is played by...
It's another Star Trek connection.
It's another Star Trek connection. He was in Next Generation.
Tin Man.
Great episode. He's actually a good actor.
He's a really good actor.
He and his wife are perfect. It's a great scene. He's basically bonding.
It's a long scene, too.
He's bored as hell, by the way.
He hasn't connected with anybody in a long time.
And he's actually connecting with these people.
A girl named Sloane. I never heard that one before.
Neither had we.
It's kind of cute. It's also kind of dorky and kind of dull, but kind of funny.
Well, they're bland and mundane too.
Totally bland.
Looks like we're low on truth serum. If I go get us another 6-pack, you guys gonna be okay?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So he goes and gets some beers, and the wife kind of leans in and sort of comments on how sad he seems.
I think he opens up more to her than he has in
He's
his entire life.
definitely opening up. And she's picking up on his vulnerability.
And he misinterprets that.
100% misinterpretation.
Get off me! Are you insane? God, what is wrong with you?
He freaks out, runs for it, gets in his RV, starts taking off. And there's that great scene as the RV's leave. Her husband's walking with the beard, kind of sees him, drives by.
It's such a great scene.
So funny. And there's little bits like this all over the movie.
Yeah.
And this is before the comedy even really takes off. For me, I mean,
we haven't gotten to Denver yet.
So there's a lot of subtle comedy throughout the movie. The darkness, the dark comedy, we'll call it, the sadness.
It's after that where he's just sort of sitting on top of the RV. He's parked somewhere. It's night. And he's just he's talking to Helen, his dead wife, and he's just sort of bearing his soul at that point.
I let you down. I'm sorry, Helen. Can you forgive me? Can you forgive me?
There's a lot of touching moments.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sadness. But there's also a lot of comedy.
Yeah.
But the comedy reaches a new level. So he eventually makes his way to Colorado. Yeah.
His daughter's wedding.
Which is a whole new introduction of characters and some great actors. Kathy Bates.
Yes. Yeah. Who plays Randall's mother.
In some ways, she carries the second half of the movie for me.
Well, she's kind of his polar opposite. They're roughly the same age.
Yeah.
But she is a free spirit, does what she wants, says what she feels like, whereas he's completely repressed and silent.
Her husband, or ex-husband, is Howard Hesseman.
Yeah.
Who we all know from WKRP in Cincinnati.
Dr. Johnny. And he's great at this.
Johnny Fever. He is so good.
Why do you have to be so negative?
I'm not negative. You're just trying to grab all the attention.
I'm not negative. That's not negative. I mean, I'm not, all I was doing was welcoming somebody into the family.
Larry, we've been welcomed by you. Thank you so much. Now would you please just drink your fucking milk and shut the fuck up?
That whole dinner scene is great. The other thing we see is his daughter, Jeannie, in that family mix. There's a connection more with the family there than what he has.
She relates more to Randall's family than her own.
Which isn't a compliment.
No, not at all. But he looks down on them.
Yeah. This guy is not up to snuff. He's not in your league. I can't let this happen. I will not allow it. I mean, look at these people.
Another great comedy bit. He's sitting. He's in a room. It might be
I think it's Randall's childhood room.
It might be Randall's childhood room. It's a waterbed.
Yeah.
So the 69-year-old man is sitting in this waterbed. He doesn't sleep well. His back is completely fucked up because of it. They give him a bunch of meds.
Hello, Mom. Hi, Pop. I miss you. And I love you. And I know every time I look at Randall and Jeannie, I just think, well, Randall's hands and mine are a lot alike. And
there's the hot tub scene.
Mind if I join you?
We kind of go from that to the planning of the wedding,
which he was never meant to be a part of.
He's a big thorn in his daughter's side.
Yeah. At this point, yes.
And she's also looking for, at the same time, for more support.
She's stressed because she's planning her wedding.
She's planning her wedding.
Well, she's still working at that stupid job, too.
Dad, where's that receipt that I gave you?
Receipt?
Yeah, for the programs at the printers you were going to pick up?
It's over there.
Where?
On
Where?
the chair in my jacket pocket.
Fine. All right. Well, I guess now, Randall, you're going to have to pick them up.
What do you mean? I don't think so. I gotta go get Brian and Dave at the airport.
I
and
can't
swing
do
by
it.
the
You think
truck
that I
stop.
can do it? I can't do everything, Randall. I cannot do everything.
She's not the princess that he had in his mind.
Yeah. And she has her stresses and she has her problems. She's also married to Randall.
You screwed the whole thing up for me, too. You didn't take the time to understand how the power system works. Principle, ownership, wealth.
Who's awesome. It just adds to the comedy, and it crescendos to this big wedding.
Which Warren is not approving of.
All of a sudden, you're taking an interest in what I do? You have an opinion about my life now?
Because he hasn't really always been there.
He's never been there.
In her life. That takes us to the wedding, which is
it's a classic hippie-ish wedding, as presented by Alexander Payne.
When I say day, I mean all 24 hours, all 1,440 minutes, all 86,400 seconds.
Well, a man shall leave his mother, and a woman leave her home.
So then from there, a great reception scene.
All like the animosity that he's been feeling in this like second act is gonna like build, and he's gonna like it's because it's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And you're thinking he is gonna blow.
What I want to say, what I really want to say is, thank you to you, Randall, for taking such good care of my daughter, especially recently with our loss.
But he doesn't. It's true to the character.
But it's also a revelation for the character.
It is.
He's realizing.
Yeah.
That
life has no meaning.
Yeah, but also, who is he
to judge?
To judge anybody.
Yeah.
And to stop his daughter from this, what appears to be happiness for his daughter.
It's two things at once.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Life has no meaning, and who's he to judge?
And who is he to judge?
I know we're all pretty small in the big scheme of things. And I suppose the most you can hope for is to make some kind of difference. But what kind of difference have I made? What in the world is better because of me?
How do things end for Schmidt?
He goes back to his house in Omaha. He finds a letter from Ndugu.
Ndugu is only 6 years old and cannot read or write, but he has made for you a painting.
And that gives him meaning. If you just look at like little things like joy.
There's a sadness to that scene.
Because he realizes that he did have an impact on somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe not his daughter, but Ndugu, maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That gave him some sort of hope. You can have an impact on his life.
Yep.
As little as that might be, that's something. I understand why he cries, because it makes me sort of emotional too.
What I love about this movie is that I think this movie hits on all levels. And the more I've watched it a few times.
There's different things you see every time you see it.
Like, I think there's great comedy in this movie. But it's very well balanced with the touching sort of like human aspects of it. One of the things about Alexander Payne movies is the casting. I feel like he's a master at casting, or at least he's a master at hiring the people who do the casting.
He's a master caster. Like putting The great Jack Nicholson with June Squibb.
It's great. Election.
Tracy.
Ethics are rules of conduct.
Sideways.
You sure you want to do this?
Those cars will run forever.
Nebraska.
Perfectly cast film.
Whatever happened to it? Stopped running.
The Descendants.
That's the one film that I don't like his casting.
Like you don't like George Clooney.
I think George Clooney's miscast.
I actually like him in that movie.
I like him, but his handsome movie star looks contradicts the basic plot and character of the film. Every time I like The Descendants, but every time I see it, I always picture who would be better in that role other than George Clooney.
Hope Davis is great.
She had like a pretty big 90s career. She was in The Day Trippers. It's a good 90s movie. Yeah.
At this late hour, you're asking Eliza what she wants to do? Isn't that a little strange that now you are getting involved? Why do you sit there like that? What's the matter? Shut up, Rita. Shut up!
Randall.
Dermot Mulroney.
Who we've seen, he's been around in a lot of films.
Lots of stuff. Yeah. He was in the 5th season of Arrested Development.
I feel like I got totally the hard part of this case.
He's great.
He's been in tons of 90s stuff.
He has been. The other thing about this movie is the comedy chops of Kathy Bates. She really is.
She rocks.
She rocks.
She bears all.
She bears all with 100% confidence. Great movie. You know, I'd give this movie a good solid A-.
I give it an A.
The only reason I won't give it an A is that if I'm judging it on other Alexander Payne movies,
I mean,
for me, what is a home run for Alexander Payne? Sideways for sure. Election.
Yeah. Those are 2 A+.
I don't give A+. I'm just gonna say I give A's.
You have to give A+. Teachers give A+. Why can't you give an A+?
All right, fine.
You know, it's an A+. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I give that an A-.
Well, you're wrong.
That's another topic. Again, I might put Sideways and Election above, but it's up there.
I would say. I would say.
Yeah.
Sideways, Election, Bat Schmidt.
Don't forget about The Holdovers, though.
Even with my ocular limitations, I witnessed firsthand your glazed, uncomprehending expressions.
Sir, I don't understand.
That's glaringly apparent.
I'm going to say The Holdovers is number 4 on that list.
Okay. All right.
Then I would say
Nebraska,
which is it's still an A. Then I would say
it's a lot of A's, folks.
He's an A director. Then I would say Descendants, which is a B+. If there was somebody other than George Clooney, that might be an A too.
You'd say B+ for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that one. And I would also take what's the Downsizing?
Downsizing.
It's more like a B to me.
I need to watch it again.
B-.
That might be too high concept for Alexander Payne.
Citizen Ruth I saw not that long ago, and it's not
good.
It's good.
It's a good start. I would give that a B+.
Yeah, I was gonna say B.
Record also shows that over the years, the state has stripped you of 4 children, declaring you in all cases an unfit mother.
I was only unfit for 2 of them.
We love Alexander Payne. You know what? We are going to do a director's cut.
We will.
Check this movie out.
Yeah.
I would say you're not going to be disappointed if you've never seen it. Especially if you like other Alexander Payne movies, you're not going to be disappointed at all.
Or if you like other Jack Nicholson movies.
It's a great Jack Nicholson movie.
This is probably the last great Jack Nicholson performance.
I agree.
Sorry, bucket list fans.
They don't let me into Egyptian heaven because my daughter hates me. Well, then I guess that's just the way it goes.
But not sorry to any How Do You Know fans. Nicholson's last film, if there even are any. Anyone ever heard of this?
I bribed an Egyptian. We know pissing in the street is against the law. This is spitting in the street. This is